Hello, and welcome back to Let's Remember Suikoden 3. We are still playing as Geddoe. We need to get to the top of the mountain to find the Firebringer's altar before the masked bishop does. It's not entirely clear what's going to happen, exactly what this altar does, but we will find our way through the mountain. I'm super underleveled for all of this, so me getting through here and not getting my ass handed in a terrible random encounter is going to be a miracle and a half. Me getting through the boss fights that I'm going to have to deal with are going to be it's going to be an experience as well. In fact, let's see if I can retreat. There we go. It sounds counterintuitive to be like, I want to retreat, but it's like, let me just get to these boss fights and go from there. I can avoid the boss fights if I'm really concerned, but I actually want to do them because I think they'll be interesting and dramatic in their own way. We are slowly getting towards where the masked bishop is. He's making his way towards the shrine. We are too. It's so weird. So I said I wanted to talk about Let's Plays, I think, in the last video. It's so weird to balance the content of a Let's Play in regards to, like, well, I want to show you guys the story, and I want to talk about the story, and I want to talk about what the game does, but also to, like, adequately play the game, I need to recruit all 108 stars, I need to do some level grinding, but those are the things I don't want to show. Even though with Skies of Arcadia, I showed it, man, I can barely talk right now. I showed the recruitment of all of the members of the Delphinus's crew, but that's because that takes very little time, and there's like maybe 32 of them max. Here there's 108, some of which we get automatically. All of these characters are part of the 108 stars, but there's this tricky balancing act, and it wouldn't seem readily apparent. But there's a balancing act between like figuring out like how much content in a Let's Play is superfluous, how much content is not superfluous, what exactly do viewers want to see, what do they want to hear. For the record, on those questions, I can do a better job with any amount of feedback that you wish to give me. Tell me the things you like discussing, tell me the things you don't like discussing, and we'll deal with them. But you don't want to burden people down with a lot of busy work, a lot of busy sort of playtime. You want to get down to the exciting parts. So, for instance, I wanted to get through all those the creature fights because I wanted to get to this, which is a fight with Duke and his crew. Which is nice to sort of have this rival battle between two of the mercenary groups. Duke joined up as the bishop's bodyguard. Gao, by the way, he's a dog, but they called him kobolds in this too, so hey, he's a kobold. But we have this option if we want to. It's sort of like fighting the Turks in Final Fantasy VII, except there's not as much like long-term history throughout the game. It's not like we had like a Wu-Tai type side quest with these fellows, but there's just enough information between the interactions of the characters to make this like an informed choice of like, what do I want to do? I think there's an option to be like, if I say that bishop is up to something, that makes me avoid the fight, but I'm actually going to say, sorry, we have to keep on going, because I actually want to do the fight, because, like I said, Let's Plays are these tricky things where you want to have drama, you want to have all kinds of things, you want to have the right amounts, it's like cooking a meal, right? And I'm only just learning how to be a moderately decent chef, if decent, right? But it's not fun to see me be like, well, I'm not going to do this really interesting fight between these characters. It's counterintuitive. I should sit back and be like, well, I'm going to use this opportunity to So that's going to take about 2 turns. Alright. Baranda Hawk will hit everybody at once, so we'll do a lot of AoE attacks right now. Next round we'll use Queen's thing here. There's some weird thing where like they don't even have a good animation for the Baranda Hawk rune. But we want to hit as many of these enemies as quick as we can. And we were lucky right there. Like I sort of said before, there's like this really strong RNG element of like, well, I hit Duke and that stopped his chanting, but it's like I didn't have a lot of control over that. You know? Want to do this and take out the least amount of people as possible. But I want to maximize it too, so this could take out Jacques, but it will definitely hit Gao and Elaine, so I'm okay with that. At the same time, I need to give everybody buffed defenses. So like, I was complaining before about my lack of control over the battlefield, and you can see most of that just comes from the fact that it's littered, like positively littered with just people. There's just so many fucking people on the battlefield at any given time. Oh, that was actually lucky. It didn't hit Jacques at all. But there's so many people on the battlefield that it feels really chaotic. In a way that just, like, I can get tactical, I can get sort of well thought about what I'm going to do, but it doesn't always work out. Geddoe's affinity for lightning magic helping once again. We will figure out exactly why that is the case very soon, but this is actually not a hard fight. A lot of the fights aren't difficult so long as you're able to use your magics wisely. Because all we have to do is deal with Nicholas and Elaine. Elaine's going to use some fire magic, but we'll see how that goes. That might actually knock out Isla. But that hits a lot of us. I think that might actually knock out Isla, which would be unfortunate, but I guess I can deal with it. She'll be back up for the next battle. Let's take her out. And actually, Queen can still heal. Super important. Funeral Wind. With a chance of instant death. That's very useful. But we want to heal Jacques while we can. And have Jacques attack. And the nice thing about this spell is that it gets off right at the beginning of the turn. Most healing spells do. So I'm relatively sure that Jacques will be okay, barring some crazy critical hits. So I'm not too worried. And instead now everybody's going to focus on Nicholas, who's just going to try and tank everything with his shield. We're going to heal Geddoe. Geddoe just got hit pretty hard with that critical. So yeah, Let's Plays again. One thing that I also don't want a Let's Play to be, but I think a lot of people, or at least I know some people, some critical peers have complained about Let's Plays because they seem just like point-for-point commentary about what's happening on screen, and to a degree that's true, and I don't want a Let's Play ever to be just about what's happening directly on the screen, but a big thing to keep in mind is that, like, it is possible to sit and talk about a Let's Play or the content in a Let's Play without always referring to what's happening on screen, but also to ignore what's happening on screen ends up being something of a mistake in and of itself. So I don't know what the proper balance is, and I'm only talking here because I'm a small channel with not many followers, so I can get away with sort of tossing ideas back and forth with all of y'all. But, you know, I've talked about broader things than just what's happening in the game before, and, you know, that's not always going to be the case, but in this particular instance it will be. Double Tusk on Nicholas because it's just causing trouble. His shield. Unless that gets him now for some reason. But it's like, no, we want to hit him hard. And then there's another fight that follows this. And I actually don't know if I have to win it. But his fucking shield. Like this guy being a huge pain in my ass right now. That should get him. Yep. So, not a difficult fight, but definitely one that involves a little bit of planning. No, I want to be able to sit back and talk broadly, but Let's Plays aren't scripted. Not even my Shadow of the Colossus series. Like, I talk very calmly and deliberately in that series because I'm talking about things that I have thought about beforehand, but nothing I've done is scripted outside of the mini crits. Right? So sometimes I will ramble, sometimes I will not always be able to react to everything that's happening on screen in a way that is maybe commensurate with the quality that the video demands or things like that. I don't know. But I think that people discount the immediacy of Let's Plays and how personal that they can be as a communication tool between the video creator and then the audience, right? People want... Sometimes I feel like they want criticism to be this very cold thing where, you know, I play Suikoden 3 and I tell you about the mechanics and I tell you about the narrative and I tell you, oh, this is very interesting because it ties back to this thing from Suikoden 2 and this is why I think this works and this is why I think this doesn't work, and I'm doing all those things in this series, but I'm also doing it while stumbling over my words. I'm also doing it while going on tangents and kind of talking about what the game makes me think, because to me, play is experiential, right? And so Let's Plays cannot be heavily curated. They need to be something that sort of comes from the heart. That's why I put it all. I put everything out there when I did Skies of Arcadia. I got stupidly emotional. But I did that because I thought it served the point I was trying to make about the game and sort of express why I thought it was worthwhile and why I thought it was, you know, also why it was important to me. With Suikoden 2, I want to talk about a game that has nuances, but I also want to talk about a game that sort of drags me in. And to do that, I can't be entirely staid, cold, and academic. I need to not be afraid to ramble and go for it. So the bishop is like, hey, what are you people doing here? We're looking for clues related to the Firebringer. Were you following me? Yes. Don't you trust me? Who can trust a man that doesn't reveal himself? Geddoe knows his shit. And Geddoe also has his reasons beyond just being like, oh, we were assigned to figure out what's going on here. Like, we're going to figure out what his reasons are. Or at least we're going to get a hint of what those reasons are by the end of the chapter. I don't know if they go into Geddoe's full history yet, but we will. But you might have to wait until after, Chris and Hugo's next chapters. Hugo's chapters are strange compared to what they could be. So, I don't know if I can win this battle. Sure as shit we're gonna try. That takes, 3 turns to charge. No way, but we're gonna do the 2-turn charge here. And hopefully get this off before the bishop casts magic, or either of them casts magic, because they're going to be able to hit us pretty hard. Look at those particle effects. Ugh. So Isla's down. And they might actually just wreck us completely. But there's good reason for that. You should note the power of the wind magic that he's using. There's a reason his wind magic is that powerful. There's a reason that Geddoe's magic is so powerful. This is not a fight I'm meant to win, so I'm okay with that. But we are going to see what's going on with Geddoe in this moment. But like, also, there's a reason the Masked Bishop is that fucking strong, and it's also the same reason why Geddoe is so good with lightning magic, which we will see in a moment. It's a good character moment. And I think we get to it. So Duke's unit left. And I think Joker is the one who broaches the topic. I might be wrong. But we need to examine the altar at the very least, I think. But we also need to remember that we did just lose a battle, which means that everyone is at terrible health conditions. So I want to at least go and I don't know if I have to, but I want to check the altar. I don't know if it does anything, but hey, it's like, let's do this. Let's double check. All right, wasn't sure. So we'll head down from the mountain and go from there. So the notion of hopeless boss battles in games is interesting to me because I have no problem when narrative and systems or mechanics align. In fact, that's when mechanics are at their best, right? Is when they are absolutely supporting whatever themes or narratives want to be told. That's why, like, for a recent example, the base management and the way that like war just continually happens in the Phantom Pain, like that's an interesting use of systems to make a thematic point about war and like war spending and things like that. I did that video on why I think QTEs, if utilized properly, and by that I mean when used to express something about the character, QTEs can be a smart mechanic. Similarly, JRPG combat systems can be a smart mechanic, but often, in order to enforce the narrative, the combat system doesn't take into account like various outcomes. So that's where you get hopeless boss battles, where it's like, even if I was somehow able to give myself a ton of hit points and beat the crap out of the Masked Bishop, sometimes you get it where like you win the battle and the game just treats it like you lost anyway. And that there's a part of me that has no problem with that, in the sense that you have to enforce your narrative in some way. But at the same time, I wish there was a way to really... I think that RPG combat systems are pretty limited in the way that they approach actions. And hopeless boss battles are just an expression of that. Like, because it's a math-based system, like, it boils down to this weird binary of, like, did you win, did you lose? Which is something that happens a lot in games. And so, within the narrative, the idea is just, like, did you win or did you lose all this shit? And even if you won, the story demands that you lose, so we'll mess all this other stuff up. Which is a little crummy. Definitely not something I'm a fan of. 'Cause, 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 Alright. Oh, I don't need to go to Lebuke. I need to go back to Caleria. Good. I thought that this was going to get a little bit more explicit about Geddoe's backstory. But I think I might be confusing the events of what happened in the game with what happens in the manga, where everything is sort of a little bit faster. But certainly, we can establish some of the following things. Geddoe has powerful magic. Like, I didn't have to train him or anything for him to learn that magic. He automatically has that level of magic at the start of the game. He seems to know a lot of people around the grasslands. He seems to have his own reasons for wanting to know what the masked bishop is up to, other than the orders that he was ostensibly given as a soldier. Right? So there are all these aspects of Geddoe that we're still meant to call into question. But as time goes on, his motivations are slowly becoming more clear. He has some sort of attachment to the land. For whatever reason, he seems to know a ton of people, and like that all ties back into all sorts of stuff. If you're familiar with sort of how magic and other things work within Suikoden, it makes sense, and you might have even guessed it by now. But we'll sort of see how things go. At the very least, I think that his chapters make good progress in terms of setting up the larger conflict, getting us access to our antagonist, who we won't see as Chris or Hugo really in the next chapters for a while. We'll have to deal with the fallout of their more localized conflict while Geddoe becomes aware of the larger conflict that's going on. Are you keeping something from us, Captain? But there are too many strange things going on. You must know something. Here we go. We're going to get some answers, hopefully. But there is one thing that ties everything together. The Firebringer. The Flame Champion. The Flame Champion Matthias possessed the True Rune of Fire, one of 27 True Runes. So we're getting some info dump here, but it's worth having. Tell us what you know, old man. The power to control the world rests with the 27 True Runes. Those who possess the True Runes have great power and immortality. It was thought that the leaders that had built Dunen had inherited the runes. Like, not all of them, but there are multiple different runes. But hey, we're getting some of the information. Powerful magic and immortality. We just fought somebody who used powerful magic. We have access to somebody who knows powerful magic. We should start putting 2 and 2 together. Like, I'm being super explicit here at this point, but it's like, these runes factor into all of the games in important ways. And we are going to slowly figure out more and more of what's going on. We just have enough hints to sort of understand what Geddoe's thing is at this point. Because we have these flashbacks. I can't tell if we're being blessed or cursed, but I have faith in this world. As long as even the slightest trace of truth remains in the world. I could barely say that. Flame Champion. Yep, so there we get it there, right? So Geddoe knew the Flame Champion 50 years ago. And Geddoe looks like, what? Not that old. So we start to put 2 and 2 together. There's actually a third person with them that we don't get to see yet. But that's that. So Geddoe's involvement with things is slowly becoming clearer. The next chapter that we will do will not be Hugo. It will be Chris. So we'll get to her. And then eventually all of these stories are going to converge. I like Geddoe's chapter 2 a lot more than his chapter 1. getting to observe the Karya incident is okay, but actually getting to slowly unravel the mystery and also start to learn a little bit more about our protagonist is nice. So, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble terribly. I am so glad to be getting back to this, and I will record Chris's chapter soon. Probably have it up sometime next week, but it also depends. Next week is the holiday. I have to work, so it might be a little longer, but it won't be as long as what it was. And I will also be working on getting footage for a Fallout 4 video very shortly. So a lot of cool stuff happening. Thank you very much for watching. I love you very, very much. I will see you around. Bye.